Well,
Probably good.
I'll help you out by starting the meeting. Maybe you'll feel a little more included in that. Welcome everyone, and I will call the January 14th, 2025 regular council meeting to order at 6 p.m. And as you see, we have dwindling butts in the seats here, but Councillor Moore is the only one missing, and she is here virtually, and we'll carry on. First of all, though, Happy New Year to everyone. We had some bumps over what was a beautiful holiday season, December 19th through the New Year, and I do want to say on behalf of Council and Administration that we extend a sincere and heartfelt thank you to all our user groups of the arena and curling rink for your understanding and support during what's been a very impactful situation on all your members and your hockey, skating, and curling seasons. We truly understand what this has meant to you all as ardent fans and supporters of recreation in our community and of you all. We feel the loss to the access of our facilities right along with you. We are looking forward to welcoming back our facility user groups to the main ice. And for leisure ice and curling ice users, which will not open again this season, we're happy to hear you have found new homes for your skaters and curlers. I know the council and I truly appreciate the love for the sport that has driven you to continue with the new home ice for the duration of the season, and we want to express our sincere gratitude to our neighboring communities that stepped in to support our user groups and offer them their rinks with open arms. And we'll have an update later because I intend to ask for one. So thanks everyone. And with that, we need to adopt the agenda as amended, I believe. And I only say, no, I don't have an adoption of the agenda as amended. I think it's as presented. There's nothing to the agenda. Is that true, Ethan? So I'll have a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Council, Deputy Mayor?
I move the council accept the agenda as presented.
Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. I feel like I'm really loud tonight. Is that really loud, Leanne, back there? I think I'll keep it that way because maybe all of our... I've listened to a few live streams on YouTube lately, and maybe we could be a little louder. So with that, I'll move to item 4 as we have no delegations, and that is for the adoption of the minutes. And I believe the December 10th minute should be amended. So the first ones, I'll ask for that motion, and I'll give you the amendment too. How's that? It's page 10. And we have talked about this motion, but I think it just needed a bit more clarity because 7/12/24 was for the Chief Administrative Officer to bring back the information. We needed to name somebody to bring back that information, and I don't know, Councillor Windsor, you brought that up, and did you have the chance to look at that or listen to that? But either way, it needs to have somebody bring back the information. So.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think what I said in that motion, looking back at the recording, was that it was administration was to bring back. It wasn't...
Did you agree?
That's
Well, you made the motion.
Yeah, I thought it was administration.
Yeah, administration. So I think we need to just add into 7/12/24 that administration bring back information. So if everybody's fine with that, I'll have a motion to accept the December 10th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes as amended. Councillor Baswick?
Yes, I'll move that we accept the December 10th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
You disagree that we should amend them?
You want to amend?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to amend them.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on those minutes?
So it is amended?
As amended.
Perfect.
I will call the vote. That all in favor? That's carried. And we have item 4.2, December 20th, 2024, special council meeting minutes. Deputy Mayor?
I move the council adopt the December 2024 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Any comments on that, Councillor? No, it's presented. We didn't amend those. Councillor Windsor? I'll call the vote, then all in favor? That's carried. And we have the January 6th, 2025 special council meeting minutes as presented. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that the council accept the January 6, 2025 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Any comments on those, Councillor Baswick or Deputy Mayor?
No.
I'll call the vote then, all in favor? That is carried. So I'm going to shuffle some papers out of my way and go to the January 14th, 2025 CAO report. Do you have anything to add to that, Ethan? Okay. Deputy Mayor, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm good with that.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. No questions, but again, like the reports we're receiving are tremendous, so I really appreciate the reports we're getting.
Baswick? No? Okay, I too agree and appreciate the reports that are in here from the departments and the directors. I again say to our planning and development department, I really appreciate the diagrams. So I know what that house will look like right down the street from me now. So, yes?
Remember Gordon?
Oh, Councillor Moore, do you have any comments on the sale?
I just remembered.
Okay, well, Jocelyn's going to indicate to me, but I should, when I go around the table, I should say that, yeah. So I asked this the other day, but I just would like council to be updated on some of this stuff. And I asked where the housing needs assessment was, and I did look back through my notes, and I believe it's in 2022, so I'm really keen on hearing that we're going to be getting the housing needs assessment back in the very near future. So Ethan, can you answer that?
Yes, again, thank you for the question. So we have Urban Systems who undertook that for us, will be coming in the coming weeks to do a report for council on that. They were going to come just before Christmas into the December meeting, but then a few hiccups arose with scheduling conflicts, and so they'll be coming shortly.
Like in the next meeting? Next?
That's the plan.
Okay. Thanks. And then I have, I mentioned this as well, we had a December 9th workshop, and I was interested in having those notes for my reference. And do you have any idea when we might be provided with those? I think it's the administrator.
Sure, but I don't, just help me understand the question.
Well, the workshop notes that I know are your executive
the
assistant
workshop
took the
notes.
notes, yeah.
Yeah, so those will be coming probably by the end of this week, so.
And can you also tell me, I'm really keen, we're in 2025 now. We've been advised at our last December 10th meeting that construction on the East Disbury Reservoir will start late spring, early summer. So I'm interested in when the borrowing bylaw would be coming to council, just as an, to understand where we are with that. And I don't know if it's a long process that Ethan you could answer, or when would we expect that? Because I think we're all eager to know that our reservoir is funded through our bylaw approval, or can be funded, not is.
Yeah, Yeah, there's just still some information we're waiting to assemble for that, so that'll be coming again in the coming weeks once we have the information that we need for.
So what does coming weeks mean? Is that like 2, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
Yeah, any of those, again, we can, again, when we have the information we need for it, then we'll be able to bring it. So,
Okay, so I think I can get this information. And I mentioned earlier that I'd like to, in my opening statement, can we have an update on the condenser progress over I did see some trucks and a great big unit sitting over there, and I saw people madly working away. Would that be, can you or your director provide that update? And what you know right now, that you don't have to go back and write us a document about, which we certainly welcome as well.
sure, thank you for the question. We'll happily defer to Nicole for this one.
I know a lot about what's happening over there. So yeah, I'm pleased to report that our temporary unit arrived on site last Thursday. By the end of the day, Friday of last week, we were connected to the floors and the unit was turned on, and we're right now bringing the arena temperature of the floor down so that we can begin ice installation hopefully on Monday. Yeah, it's working really well, and you know, this is new to us, so we'll know Monday if it is as efficient as our ice plant operations were, with how quickly that ice will freeze, the water will freeze once we begin the hose floods on Monday.
Well, that is just better than I expected for an update, so I appreciate that. I'm sure everybody's excited over there, and lots of people driving by to take a look. It's a pretty big unit fenced off there, so it's an interesting change to what was on the tower. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. And with that, then, I would... Everybody been around the table with their... Oh, Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. It's been a while, and maybe no news is good news, but I wonder if we could get an update on where we are with the Butte Water Tower and what the condition is there, and if it's status or if it is deteriorating, and where we are with that.
Ethan?
Sure, thank you for the question. I'll have Adam speak to that.
Thank you for the question. The maintenance that was done throughout the year that we did this summer, everything is right now holding up relatively well. We have some small seepage that is coming through in isolated areas. We do monitor these things. We anticipated some routine maintenance in the coming years, and this is all falling within the spec of what we expected from this.
Answers your question? All right. So I will have a motion to accept the January 14th, 2025 CAO report as information. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move the council accept the Chief Administrative Officer report for January 14, 2025 as information.
All right, call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Item 7, 7.1, Bylaw 2025-01, Amendment to Land Use Bylaw 2019-04, Dwelling Unit, Occupancy of the Owner, Operator, or Caretaker. Sure, so a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that council grant first reading of Bylaw 2025-01, Amendment to Land Use Bylaw 2019-04, Dwelling Unit, Occupancy of the Owner, Operator, or Caretaker.
Do you have any questions?
Not really, no, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bazard? Councillor Moore? She has a question? Oh,
If that was a motion, I couldn't hear it.
So I didn't say it loud enough. That's unusual for me.
well, your mic isn't on.
What do you
Does that make a difference?
It was on before, but I was not close enough, I guess. Is that correct? Yes, okay. So I move the council grant first reading to bylaw 2025-01, amendment to land use bylaw 2019-04, dwelling unit occupancy of the owner, operator, or caretaker.
Deputy Mayor, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
No, I don't either at this point because we will be setting a public hearing for this. So I will call the vote. All in favor on the first reading? That's carried. And Councillor Windsor, do you want to finish?
Sure, Mayor Hunter, thank you. I'll move to set Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 as a public hearing for bylaw 2025-01, amendment to the land use bylaw 2019-04, dwelling unit occupancy of the owner, operator, or caretaker.
And do you have any, there's really not many comments to make about public hearings. So I will call the vote that we will have a public hearing Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. And we're on to business already. It's only 6:17, I better slow down. Hey, Deputy Mayor?
I'm keeping up.
8.1, 2025 capital budget amendment, ice plant condenser. And I think administration should maybe speak to this first. I know the RFD is full of information, but is there any highlights or supplementary or other interesting information you'd like to share? And then I'm sure council might have some questions that might help to know what.
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. I will defer to Nicole, who will be happy to speak to that.
Thank you. So this evening you're being presented with a capital budget amendment for the replacement of the ice plant condenser that went down in December. So just a couple of points to make before we kind of get into a conversation around the two different styles that we have is that we're looking at a 20-week from the time that we place the order that the condenser is designed and built for us, delivered and installed is approximately 20 weeks. So that puts us kind of near the end of June, early July, which would be in line with our ability to be up and running as scheduled for next season. But because of this timeline, our intention will be to be using the Canute procurement program for this purchase. So there'll be a 2-week advertisement will go on the Alberta Purchasing Connect to notify of that intent, and then we will hopefully in early February be placing the order to meet that timeline. So when we're looking into replacing it, there's really two different styles that are available to us that will work with the stand that we have. So the new condenser would be, either of these options would be placed up on the stand, so there'd be no fencing required or anything like that. The weight's fine for both of them. And so the difference between them is there's an evaporative model, which the budget is about $300,000 for that. And so this one uses a lot of water. You can see within the RFD it uses substantial amounts of water. And this would have been what was available at the time that that initial condenser was installed. And so we do know that we're spending about $10,000 a year on chemicals to treat the water so that we don't get scale in the water, which then clogs up the rest of the operations of the system. And based on the 2025 rates for water that are just coming into effect, and based on the high-level estimate of the amount of water that a new evaporative unit would use in a year, which is about 600,000 gallons or 2271 cubic meters of water, that has a value of almost $15,000 per year to operate this type of a condenser. So I mean, the benefits for this one are obviously that it has a lower initial purchase cost. However, I think that the disadvantages are those ongoing annual costs, about $25,000 a year between the chemical and the water costs themselves. The second model that wouldn't have been available back when the condenser that we have now was installed is called an adiabatic condenser, and the capital budget for this one would be $400,000. And so this second option operates differently than the evaporative. It doesn't use water to the same extent. It uses air instead to cool the fluid that's going through the condenser for the most part, except during kind of high ambient conditions, which is basically our summer months. So in talking to the supplier about this style of condenser, they figure that we would really probably only see water use for this condenser during August and September when it is still warm outside, but for the rest of our season that we would just be using air. So this one, the high level estimate of water use of this one is about 144,000 gallons, or 545 cubic meters of water. And that has a value of just over $3,500 a year at the current rates. So, and we wouldn't require any water treatment for this model at all. So that would be immediately an elimination of $10,000 per year in the ice plant operating budget. The adiabatic model is the style that if you were building a new arena today, this is likely what you would choose, just because they have a better kind of environmental footprint. They obviously have lower operating costs when it comes to water use, water treatment, and all of the equipment, pumps and stuff that go into that type of water use. And they are newer to the market, but they have less maintenance costs associated with them and are expected to last longer than an evaporative model, but because they haven't been used in this setting for kind of the time frame of what a life expectancy would be, that's just the suppliers that are speaking to that. So the advantages to investing the additional $100,000 into an adiabatic model would be obviously the lower annual operating costs, an estimated about 75% reduction in water consumption annually. And then the disadvantage on this would be just that there is a higher initial capital cost associated with it. So when we kind of just did some calculations in comparing the two and estimating an annual cost savings of almost $25,000 between the water and the chemicals, those are the two numbers that we can really kind of pinpoint. The $100,000 price difference between the two styles would be recovered in operational savings in just over 4 years. And if you were to use that across the life expectancy of $25,000 a year for 20 years, that's a substantial operating cost that we can avoid by investing a little bit more to begin with and getting the different style than what we previously had. So we are recommending that the adiabatic condenser is a better option for council to consider. Funding is recommended to come from the Didsbury Memorial Complex Reserve Fund, which has approximately $900,000 available. Additionally, we will also be making an application to Mountain View County for shared facility funding for this capital item, and that could see up to 32%, which would be our request would be 32%. That we could receive up to $128,000 of that cost back from the county in that funding program. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
It's not really a question, because you did go on and kind of answer it. I was just doing some quick math, and over 20 years, not 25, I estimated a water savings of about $225,000 and an additional $200,000 in operating costs. But then you made a statement, but corrected it. I think you said it would save about $10,000 a year, which is what I had in the chemical costs.
Yeah.
So, basically on a 25-year lifespan, this machine itself costs $500,000 less to operate, which is more than the cost of the less expensive unit, which actually makes it considerably more expensive. So I would definitely be in favor of I'm not even going to try that word, the
adiabatic.
adiabatic model. And the fact that we can reduce the chemical that we're applying. Thank you.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I have a couple of questions. The temporary model or unit that we have in there, am I close enough now? The temporary model that we have in there now, is it either of these?
No, so the temporary model is essentially a chiller. And so by disconnecting all of the components of the ice plant, we're able to operate on kind of the refrigerant unit that's sitting outside the arena right now. And so it's neither of those things because it's a chiller and not a condenser.
So I think if I heard correctly, Nicole, you indicated that these were the two that you looked at simply because of the elevated platform that they would fit on from the existing condenser. Are there other alternatives?
Yeah, so there are two other alternatives. One is a hybrid model, which is what is currently existing. It's not recommended because they are not efficient and they don't have the same lifespan. So we've learned kind of through all of this that's gone on that condenser would have been installed kind of in the early 2000s. It was it put in a hybrid model because they were trying to make use of some, sorry. I'm not the expert, but I've tried to be the expert in it. So anyways, the hybrid model is what we currently have. It's not a recommended model for use anymore in arenas. And the other model would be a heat recovery system type of model that would recycle the heat that would be produced through the condenser to be repurposed back within the facility. But due to the timelines that we have to try and be operational for next season and the unknown costs with the other improvements that would have to be made in the ice plant, so we would have to change several things to be able to accommodate a heat recovery type of system in there. If we were building an ice plant today, like if we were just building one today, we would want a heat recovery because of course then it's much better for the environment and that we can recover a lot of heat loss out of the facility, reducing other utility costs that we would be associated with. But the lead time to be able to get one in place, combined with the additional replumbing, refitting of a lot of other fixtures within the ice plant, didn't make that a model that was achievable within this year.
So since we're getting by with a chiller model here right now, is a chiller model even a possibility that would warrant some consideration? Did I do that loud enough?
I don't think so, because I think there's a lot of unknowns with the chiller model. Like we don't know what the energy costs are going to be associated with it. It's not, it's not enclosed. I know that there are some arenas, some smaller arenas that are operating one surface with a temporary model like we see. There are some kind of to the east of us, one for sure that I know of. And that probably works for them. We're trying to put in 3 surfaces, and I don't believe that we can power a model enough to be able to do the surfaces in a way that is going to be efficient. I think that we would see substantially increased power consumption above what, our ice plant already is a large power consumer, But I think that by trying to bypass the rest of the system that, you know, is intended to work efficiently to create efficient ice, to maintain the ice efficiently, I think that we would struggle with that. I wish I had a better answer. I wish we were a week from now when I could tell you what, because we don't know how well the temps are going to be on the floor until we start putting water down next week. When we start installing our ice and we can see how quickly that ice is going to freeze, that will tell us how efficient that's going to be. It's going to be fine for 2 months. Would I recommend it as a ongoing model? I wouldn't. I think that the plant, it all works together in a way that allows us to supply the good quality ice that we're known for, and I just think that we would run into ongoing problems with just a temporary model sitting out there like that when we have a proper ice plant that, you know, all the other components are working great. It's just this one piece that needs to be replaced. And I wouldn't even know what a purchase of one of those would be. I know a rental is real expensive, so I don't even know what to purchase a unit like that, what that cost would look like. Yeah.
Councillor Belzer?
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair, Nicole, this system still uses ammonia,
It does.
correct?
Yes.
So we're not talking something that we had discussed before, which is really expensive. So we're still going to use this system, which would have ammonia in it, right?
Yeah. Just a follow-up, Councillor, if you don't mind, Mayor, because I know that at a previous meeting you did ask about this, and so I did ask that question around if we were wanting to move away from ammonia, what would that look like? And it would require us to replace a lot of components within the ice plant, not just the condenser, and we would be well into $1.5 million likely to be able to completely upgrade the entire plant to be able to accommodate carbon dioxide instead of ammonia. And when I asked that question, I was, kind of asked the industry experts' opinions on it, and ammonia, in their opinion, is the best option when it comes to recreational refrigeration.
Right, with these two options, adiabatic is a no-brainer for me. It really, the dollars just work, and good for you doing that. It's an option I think is good for us.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
My questions have all been answered. Thank you.
Okay. So in these two models, Nicole, and just for those out there that aren't aware, when we introduce Nicole, she's our Community Services Director. And when we speak to Ethan, he's our Chief Administrative Officer, and Adam is our Public Works Manager, and Amanda is our Chief Financial Officer. So I just thought of that when we're just talking, like we're in the living room, that someone might not know who Nicole is as well as we do. So the two models, so are you comparing the water consumption with each other or against what we currently use?
They're compared to each other because we're using a hybrid model. It's a non-comparable right now. So this is based on putting in a new unit and what the advantages and disadvantages to each.
And it's not comparable to the current model because it doesn't use a lot of water?
It does use a lot of water, but it does not use water to the same level that the evaporative model would use. So I think that we would likely, if council decides to go the adiabatic route, you would see some changes within, I believe that the water usage sits within the curling rink budget for this, just because the ice plant doesn't have its own meter. So I think you would see some changes, kind of after a year of operating. We would probably see quite a decrease on that. So the $14,000, some of that would be already what's in the budget, but I expect that it would likely be higher once we had a year's kind of operations to really understand what exactly we were looking at in terms of water use.
And to phrase that for me, that means our water consumption might go up with an adiabatic in the long run, but we'd have to know that
No,
for a year of readings, or it would go down.
it would go down.
Okay. All right, and that was my question. Yeah. And any other costs are going to be like the same setup for electric and well, the plumbing has already been addressed with the water and whatnot, but the electric consumption, power consumption.
I think that we might see it a little bit higher with the adiabatic model, but I don't think it wasn't anything. It's hard, these are the hard numbers to try and figure out until you don't know until you really know. I believe that the adiabatic would use a bit more power than the evaporative, but
not enough to offset the cost of water.
no,
It wouldn't-
I mean
so-
over the ownership period of a evaporative model, when you look at the water costs, the chemical costs, like that doesn't even include the staff time to maintain those things, the R&M that we have on the pumps and things like that, those are a little bit more difficult to kind of put a proper figure to, but we would see savings along the way with that as well. So I believe that the cost savings that we would incur by not using water as the main cooling agent and instead using air would be higher than the increased power that an adiabatic model would use.
And just one last question on, you implement this condenser or install it, and there's really not any changes for the operations, like there's not a higher staff attention rate to readings or, I mean, they're there anyway, but it's going to just kick right along and it'll fall in place just like what is currently in place for procedures and processes and more training on them or?
Well, no, because for the most part, our equipment, when it's, we do the reads, we do minor maintenance, but larger scale maintenance is done through our contract, through our service agreement already. So no, I mean, there would be no additional staff time. They would get training to understand the differences between what they're used to what's new and coming in. We wouldn't need any additional staff. Our readings are done within the plant room off of our compressors already, and so, I don't see any increased costs in that realm.
Okay, and obviously Simcoe you've been working with our contract provider, and these are options they recommend and work with commonly, so I thank you for the work put in here and all the information that you provided. You wanted to make a motion, Councillor Baswick?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the 2025 ice plant condenser capital project valued at $400,000, funded from the Didsbury Memorial Complex Reserve, and to amend the 2025 capital budget accordingly.
Should there be reference to the adiabatic model, or did you? I don't know who phrased the resolution, but.
Well, I just include the value, but if you would, if you'd like to put the adiabatic, based on the value of that, we would know that to
Yeah, I think.
go
well,
for
I
it, but
think
if you'd
it's
like to,
just because that's what the discussion we just
Sure.
had. So, if would you mind putting that in there?
Could we just use the word 2025 ice plant or adiabatic ice plant condenser? Put the word in.
Sure. I think it's,
Would that be clear? Do that. Thank you.
all right. Deputy Mayor?
And we also may see about $128,000 contribution from the county at 32%, which would reduce our cost, and we would just put that money back in the fund at that time, in the reserve fund, I would assume.
Yeah, so any of that funding that would come in through the county's shared support would just be returned back.
Thank you.
All right. I think everybody's asked their questions. We have a motion. I will call the vote. The 80 Baddock Ice Plant Condenser Capital Project and valued at $400,000. All in favor? That is carried. We have item 8.2, the Velarosa Link design. I think this is probably a conversation before a motion. I'm going to start with Councillor Windsor on this one. Go around the table.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter.
Is there anything, I guess, first to add to this? Sorry, Councillor Windsor, but is there anything that anyone would like to add administratively? The RFD is pretty thorough, and I think there'll be a lot of questions come maybe that would be relative. But is there any supplemental information to the RFD, I guess, is any other comments?
No, Your Worship.
Okay. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Looking at the statistics on the separate options, the 5 options that we've been presented here, am I loud enough? I think if we're looking at having it as accessible, wheelchair or handicap accessible, then I think that option 1 and 2 are really the only two that fall into that category. My question would be that the only difference between option 1 and 2 is where the route goes straight off of, is it Velarosa Way? It either goes north along the edge of the municipal reserve, or it goes along the south, along the edge of the trees. And I'm wondering if there's a difference in the feasibility, the ease of them, or whether it's going to impact future development. There's essentially the only difference between those two is where that access flows. And so I wonder if there's a difference in that might help us make an educated decision as to which one to go with.
Thank you for the question. I will defer to Adam Johnston, our Acting Director of Engineering and Infrastructure, to speak to the questions related to this.
Thank you for the question. Both these options are about the same impact down there. They are just 2 different options. They're in the same general area. One kind of cuts up nice those trees, but there is really no difference.
So then, Mayor Hunter, I guess because I'm interested in having it accessible, or wheelchair handicap accessible, and it's either between option 1 and 2, and as Adam has indicated that there isn't a lot of difference between the two, they're pretty much the same. Since option 1 is a little bit shorter and less money, I would think that would be the one that I would support.
Okay. Councillor Baswick?
I agree with Councillor Windsor. Option 1 would be my choice as well. I like the character of the trail. I think it's, and I think we had a recommendation from Mr. Quantz about running that trail north of the tree line in order to preserve the ambience of the area. So that might fit. I wonder if wheelchairs includes any type of motorized vehicle, handicapped vehicle, is that included in the process? Would that be allowed? like a scooter, you know, with RCMP policing and stoplights and all that kind of stuff, you know. I just wonder if it includes that, not just wheelchairs, it's any mobility device, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So that 5% grade, that's pretty well the defining line. If you keep it under 5% grade, it's handicap accessible, whether it be somebody on a wheelchair or it be somebody on a small mobility scooter.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you. I guess my question would be more about whether this is a shortcut to downtown or something, because in the information provided, it does state, because we know that the current roadway, pathway, and sidewalk system will eventually connect Valorosa Drive to 29th Avenue, the top loop of the Memorial Park, and the wetlands. So if we're connecting people to the longest pathway system in town, then this takes care of all of that. I mean, it's already taken care of. If we're looking for a shortcut to downtown, then there are a lot of other areas that don't have one, like Southridge, whose shortcut is an illegal walk down the railroad tracks. I'm not sure what it is that we're trying to accomplish. If it's to give access to trails, we're already going to be getting that this year. And if it's shortcut to town, I don't know that switchbacks are a way that I would want to be taking somebody in a wheelchair down there. So I don't think that I can support anything to be done now, because it does look like this would be a question for the next council.
Option one, like I think it's important to council, well, it's certainly important to me to have accessibility, and it's important to me that our Valorosa residents have an access, as we discussed at our, when we first had the original 4 or 5 designs presented to us, that we wanted something accessible, not damaging all the trees and the nature habitat, whatnot. So I don't know how long. I'm not prepared to have our Valorosa residents continue to wait 5 or 10 more years until development's done down there, and hope that somebody comes up with more pathways and systems when we have had this on our capital budget and our multi-year capital plan. And the design phase was to be done this 2024. So I appreciate that we have a lot of options here. Option one, what I see, the accessibility is, like I said, important. But I think when I look at it, it also might have an option to just have a shortcut into some other pathway system eventually. So I don't know that, we can't look into the future, but I know that we can look at now that accessibility is important to a lot of our residents, and I appreciate that we have these options here, and I would support option one for that as well, to provide a letter of support to apply for that active transportation fund grants. And I don't think these grants are going to end. I think that's the way of the future, and I think they're going to be coming our way lots, just like the tree canopy and whatever grants we have been applying for. So it's unique and creative, and it gives people, even if they're walking, they get a few extra steps in this way, and they can use the elevation to their benefit. And I thank ISL for their work on this. The other ones are great too, but it's too bad they can't be accessible, especially the straighter options like option 3. But right now we're looking at something that I think can be hopeful for our Valorosa residents who've waited a long time for this and saw it in our budgets. Councillor Baswick?
Thank you,
I'm
Mayor.
sorry. Well, I'm going to start with him and then go around. I'm sorry.
I haven't spoken.
Oh, I know, but he pointed at you. So I'm going to go backwards. Did you want to make a motion?
No, I haven't had
Okay.
a chance to ask my questions yet.
I'm sorry.
That's
Well, then you
all.
can't talk then, because I usually start with you, so I guess I forgot that I did. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor, and I apologize for speaking before you.
So a couple of questions, and they're kind of scrambled in my head, but this would come out of the capital budget, I believe, and that's already been approved, has it not? So this amount is more than double what we have in reserves. I know we're hoping for a grant. Also, I agree, no matter what path we put in, it must be wheelchair accessible. That's without question. But I'm struggling at going ahead and approving an additional $100 and some thousand that in a budget that we've already approved.
And it won't be in this budget this year.
It will be in
With the grant.
2026.
Yeah, I think the multi-year capital plan needs to come back with that adjustment, because it was design phase last year and then construction phase this year, but we just got the design phase now. And then if we're applying for the grant, I believe when the multi-year capital plan comes back, that would be deferred into 26, because I don't anticipate that we would approve it this year either, to add to the budget.
Okay, and that was my concern, that we would start construction on this right away this summer, and we're short a lot of money for it. So if it's design phase that we've looked at, I would be in favor at this point of, obviously, option 4 is my favorite, but it's a 7.8% grade, and that's not going to work for, probably more so for the power scooters and wheelchairs. So I would agree option 1. So my understanding would be then we're approving this probably in principle of receiving the grant, and then if we get the grant, then we would approve the money. If we didn't get the grant, it would come back. Okay, so I'm good with that. We're not committing the money until we see if we get the grant funding. Thank you. I talked myself into answering some of my own questions somehow.
It's in the first paragraph on page 27, but I know, that's okay, you don't have to.
I'm kidding, you do.
I know you do. Yes. So do you have any other questions or
No.
comments?
No.
You had another comment. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I like the concept of the paths always, but I want it to be an experience, not just a line of whatever. I want something to happen, where there's a little bridge or there's trees or something, or a sitting bench, something that makes it an experience for someone to go down there and make them want to use this particular path. That's beyond the cost and all that, but just to make it more of an experience is what I'm after.
And option 1 would do that. Right. Yeah, I agree, that's a good point. Anything else? So are someone prepared to make that motion? To the second motion? Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that council accept option 1 in principle and provide a letter of support for the Valarosa Link project grant application for the Active Transportation Fund grant.
Okay, I think everybody's had their comments, so I will call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Moore is opposed. That's carried. And we just saved a bunch of trees too, Councilor Bazard, so we just saved a bunch of trees.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, well, okay. We can do that.
Yes.
Item 8.3, setting the 2025 budget meeting date. And because I know there was a survey, I think that would be helpful to start with majority on the survey before we make a motion.
Thank you for the question. So there was a clear majority, and given that quorum of council consists of 3 council members, there was 4 respondents to the survey, and the majority dates were for February 10th and for March 10th. Second to that, the other 2 dates that would establish quorum would be February 27th and March 3rd.
So what was the difference?
Hey Josh, maybe put the survey up on the screen. Results. There was 2 dates, so 4 out of the 5 responded.
Mhm.
And there was 2 dates that all 4 good with.
So,
February 10th or March 10th had all 4 available out of the 4 that responded. And we're assuming the 5th individual was good with all the dates.
any
Sooner than later.
sooner than later?
Do the
February 10th?
The February 10th?
That's 6. Do you want to make that motion?
Sure.
I move the council set the next budget date for February 10th at 6 p.m. Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m. Yes.
That's just the end of the motion.
I didn't even read it, I was thinking.
Okay. Well done. Okay. Any comments on that? Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Since this survey's already been done, we've kind of figured some dates out. Not trying to be pessimistic, but in the event that we don't get the budget finished at that time, is there a possibility of selecting some of these other dates so that if subsequent meetings are required, that we don't have to do another survey to find out the same information?
I like that idea.
I'm okay with that.
So we could set February 10th and February 27th?
The next popular alternate, right?
Yeah. Do you want to amend your motion for that then?
So I'll amend my motion to include.
Ethan, what?
Yeah, just, obviously just administrative feedback would be, depending what comes out of the February 10th meeting and what kind of additional information is required, we would just have some uncertainty as to whether that could be turned around by the 27th. So if it's just to continue work on the information provided at the February 10th, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem. But if all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of additional complicated information that council wants to dig into, then that's the only pause that we would have. But if it's just to continue the discussion from the 10th, then of course, then that's fine. So that's the administrative input on that.
Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm wondering if the motion could just be worded that working in cooperation with administration, the alternate dates could be the 27th or the 3rd or the 10th or whatever. I think that it could be worded so that we can make this work anyway.
I think we have to pin this down because we just had a survey. We know when council's available and council's likely keen to get working on this. But yeah, did you want to word that somehow like that then?
Thank you. Through the chair, I would ask this of administration then. So if we're setting it for February 10th, it looks like March 10th was another date. I can't read that real well, but March 10th was actually the next date that all 4 said they were available. Would that be enough time, given that that would be a full month?
Yeah, that would probably be a safer, again, assuming, who knows, I mean, but that's the That's probably, and also being that it's the one that everyone could be at, it's probably the more sensible.
And I guess a worst case scenario, if something unusual came up that we had to start dealing with, we as council could change that date at that point anyway if needed. Okay.
So maybe the February 10th and the March 10th are the two that you said.
So then I would amend my motion if, council will agree or they won't. I would amend my motion to say that in the event that we need another night because we don't finish, that would be on March 10th at 6 p.m. in council chambers.
Any comments, Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm okay with this. I'm not sure that I wouldn't like it to move quicker, but at the same time, we have till April to get it done anyway, so I'm fine with the motion the way it is, if that's council's desire. All right.
Councillor Bazir?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess the only question I have through the chair, how does this affect our tendering process? I mean, how late can we go before we can tender out roads, sidewalks, various things like that? Is March too late or early?
Ethan?
Thank you for the question. I know that's not a problem at all, especially as most of that is all done through the capital budget, which has been approved.
Councillor Moore? Nope. Yeah, I certainly think February would be nice to have it done. Council would work to make sure that happened. I'd rather have it sooner than later too, and I'm just not sure we bend a lot for this, but I guess we'll bend one more time, and I'll agree to your motion as when I call the vote. So we have 6 p.m., February 10th, and then what did you want to say?
And amend that to also include subsequent if we're not finished the budget, if we haven't approved it that night, that our next budget meeting would be March 10th at 6 p.m. in council chambers.
So Jocelyn, I'm sure you've crafted that to be shorter than a sentence. It's fine. It's what your intention is. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, to set 2025 budget meeting dates for 6 p.m. on February 10th, 2025 in council chambers, and tentatively schedule March 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in council chambers if required.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have item 8.3. No, 8.4, DDAC, Disbury Economic Development Advisory Committee, new member appointment 2025. Deputy Mayor?
I move council appoint Lori Fisher as a new member to the Didsbury Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Any comments on that? Questions? Deputy Mayor, any follow-up? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I've got some questions about the DDAC and how it's operating and what is going on as a council committee. I don't believe I've seen minutes from the meetings. I don't see a list of the projects that are being undertaken. I think that this committee was supposed to be an advisory committee to the EDO, and whatever she wanted to present to them, or to the council, she was to take these to the DDAC for advice and recommendation that could come back to council. And I'm just not seeing that happen. And so I'm going to vote against this motion because I think that we need to be seeing some of that information and some of those things. If the DDAC committee isn't doing what we intended it to do and intended it to be, then I'm not sure I can support its continuation. And so why would I appoint another member to it until I'm comfortable with what its role is right now? So I will be voting against this motion, Mayor Hunter.
Councillor Baswick? Councillor Moore? I guess in the bylaw, and this references here that's a board member, so only 2 chamber board members can be on our advisory committee, so is that being met, that expectation or that bylaw clause?
No, it's not two chamber like anybody can be a chamber member. Most of the businesses are chamber members.
No, it says 2 chamber board, sorry, Ethan, through Ethan to our economic development, so it says 2 chamber board members can be on the committee. And so are there 2 right now or more? Or where are we sitting with board members, right? That's all I have as a question, just only because it's mentioned here that it's a board member.
Thanks for the question, Your Worship. I'll defer to Alexa Ross, who's our Economic Development Officer, to answer that.
At this point, we only have Lori Hodge, who is on the chamber board as a DDAC member. She is the chair of the DDAC, and Lori would be the second chamber member.
Board member.
Board member.
Because you can be a
yes.
member of the chamber, just not a board member,
Yeah.
according to our
So-
bylaw.
Yes.
So that's the only question.
Yeah. So
And-
she would be the second board member, but she's not representing the chamber.
Well, if they're board members, they have that hat. That's why that
Yeah.
bylaw is created that way, but
Yeah.
by council. Ethan, I'd also like to ask, just while we're on the topic, how many members are there currently active on the DDAC and
There are currently 7 members, including deputy mayor.
so this would be 8?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay. Okay, you made the motion. Councillor Moore, any other comments?
No.
All right. I will call the vote to appoint Roy Fisher as a new member of DDAC. All in favor? Opposed? All right, that's carried.
Mayor Hunter, if I may, I wonder if maybe it would be appropriate to get a report from the DDAC committee as to minutes and what projects they're working on and what's going on with that committee. I think it would be valuable for council to know what one of their committees is actually doing.
Make a motion.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that we request from administration a report on the activities of the DDAC committee, projects they're currently working on, and minutes in the last 6 months.
Okay. You want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think I spoke to it prior
Okay.
to with the original motion.
Deputy Mayor?
Because it's my understanding that DDAC meetings are closed, I wouldn't support that information be made public. I would agree that it could be distributed to council, but I might be wrong, so I would have to defer to through the chair to Ethan to find out if I'm correct on that.
Well, then council obviously passed their bylaw, so does it say in our bylaw that the meetings should be closed? I guess there's lots to this. I get your point that yes, council would be privileged to have the privilege of accessing minutes of their committees. Is it in our bylaws that all the meetings are closed and that we expect that? And can the information be shared with council, or who should it be shared with? Those are good comments and observations and questions. So it's in the bylaw. Ethan, you have something to say?
Yes, so the clauses that govern whether any discussion of any committee or council is closed is all governed by the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, and that has specific clauses for when the nature of certain discussions fit within a certain parameter when those conversations are closed. Generally, most of the DDAC conversations fall within those protections of requiring privacy, confidentiality.
Councillor Bazick, do you have any comments? Councillor Moore? No? You had your hand up again, Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I have a bit of a problem with that, in that council should be aware of what their committees are doing, whether it's FOIP or otherwise. I think that I'm concerned about that we aren't aware of what is going on there. And I think we need to revisit that overall in general, that certainly council should be aware of what their committees are doing. And I don't think that that's unreasonable to have as an expectation.
Deputy Mayor?
I'm sorry that you have that concern. I think reports are brought by our EDO as to activities, what's going on in the economic development. I do know also that the mayor gets the minutes. So anyway, I'll be voting against it.
Would we, your earlier comment, though, Deputy Mayor, that council gets minutes, is that, if there's a friendly amendment, would that be?
No, I'm going to vote against it. I think we've been sort of taken aback. This isn't on the agenda, and I think that it's a greater conversation.
Okay.
It felt like accusation to me, so I'm following what I understand the bylaw to be.
So, having said that, Councillor Windsor, would it be an amendment to your motion to bring back DDAC as a conversation and the bylaw and the discussion about that? Would that be maybe Deputy Mayor could support that we look at that bylaw and maybe it's time for just a review of it?
Yeah, I think probably that is the appropriate.
I don't know, would that, because you brought that up, would that be acceptable that there's amendment to the motion?
I agree that council can look at any bylaw they choose to.
Okay.
If council wants to examine the bylaw, they have the freedom to do that.
Okay, so I think it'd be more palatable to have a motion to just bring back the bylaw for that discussion. And I see, because we're on DDAC, I see that it brought up questions, but if that's the best way to manage that, then just, would you mind amending your motion and to bring back the bylaw for council review?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's really an amendment, it's probably a withdrawal of the other one, and
Yeah.
to make a
Yeah.
motion that council, I'm not sure whether it's a referral or just bring back the DDAC bylaw for review.
Yeah, because I think eventually we'll just go to the Policy and Governance Committee again. Right? Yeah. But we would bring it back here first, as is our process. And then,
So bring it back to council for review.
okay. Did you catch that, Jocelyn? So you'd like to, because you have to stay quiet over there, we'll let you speak this time?
Moved by Councillor Windsor that administration bring back bylaw 2022-13 Didsbury Economic Development Advisory Committee bylaw to council for review and recommendation.
Just remove the recommendation.
Okay. Just review, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I would just like to make note that the bylaw is public. Anyone can read it at any time. I don't know that it has to come back to council if a councillor has a concern about it. It can be read and they could bring back any concern they want. I'm not interested in digging into that bylaw right now. We have so much to do, so.
Okay. Well, I'd support a motion to bring it back for review, and if it's defeated, then it'll stay as is. So, any other comments? Everybody's had a round table. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? So that's defeated. All right. We have item 9, council reports for January 14th, 2025. Is there anyone who would like to start? Because I'm going, you want to start with your report. What have you been doing since December 10th? It's council related.
Yeah. I would love to report, however, I was under the weather and missed MPC. I will be there for the next one, but, and that's my report.
Maybe everybody's will be short and sweet. Councillor Moore? Councillor report?
I attended lots of events with the feedback. It's really hard for me to focus on what I'm saying, so I'll let others report on all the events that I, as well as others, attended.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. On RDR MUG, we've been working, a subcommittee been working on the bylaws, and those are going to be presented on Thursday at the AGM for ratification, provided the membership agrees with the changes. The Water Commission meets tomorrow, and we haven't had a lot to do up until now because of the year end. Parkland is similar, although there is a report in the external reports on Parkland Regional Library. I had the honor of attending on behalf of Mayor Hunter the Farm and Ranch Bonspiel banquet, which was amazing. Number of people that attended, the gifts that were given out, and the support that they have for the Bonspiel committee was incredible. And so that was a very enjoyable experience. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Actually, I had no committee work after the 10th. We just had we had 2 special council meetings, I think. So nothing really to report. You guys were all there.
Thanks for that. And thanks for attending the banquet. Councillor Windsor, I appreciate that as alternate deputy mayor. It's nice to see our alternate deputy mayor and deputy mayor get out there to those events, and it's always a great event. It really is. And they really scrambled to make sure it happened with the, they went to holes with it, and they did a fantastic job. So I'm going to defer my report to December 28th. And having said that, I will, but I do want to speak, there is another item on here about the Polytechnic Impact Breakfast, and it's just something that the mayors along the corridor are invited to keep up to date with what's going on at Red Deer College, and a good opportunity to stay in touch with one of our Polytechnic institutions. So right now, a motion to accept the council reports. Councillor Baswick? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. And then, if anyone would care to approve my attendance at that breakfast. Sure. Okay. Arm wrestle, yeah.
So you want to motions?
Yeah, make the motion and ask questions, sure.
Okay, so I'll move to approve Mayor Hunter's attendance at the Red Deer Polytech Impact Breakfast on January 28th.
Okay. Do you have questions, Councillor Windsor?
No.
Deputy Mayor?
No, not about that, but
Oh.
about the council report here.
Okay. Well, let's deal with them next. We'll deal with the professional development claim and expense totals. next, if that's all right? You're right. Any questions on the Polytechnic? Councillor Moore? Call the vote then, all in favor? And then we're going to discuss these expenses. Final year end, these would be year end. I believe our last run is in there. Is that true, Amanda? Does that say that?
Just one.
Yes, it does say final. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor, you have a question.
So I'm just wondering, through the chair, if I can have someone help me read this. My budget was $4,500. It says final spent, including AB Munis, was 0, and final spent excluding AB Munis was $4,500. And I didn't spend any. My final remaining is $4,500, but I don't know where this $4,500 came in that I spent. Because somebody did. And how we arrived on Councillor McCoy's at having spent $6,122, meaning that AB Munis, in my math, was $5,801 for her. So there's probably an explanation here. I'm just not reading this right.
You think, can someone answer that?
Yeah, I think maybe what we should do, obviously, I think there's just some numbers that are incorrectly inputted there, and so we'll have I think what I'd recommend is that administration take that back and re-look at it and then bring it back, I think, is because there's a few there that kind of, I think there's just been some numbers inputted in the wrong places, and we need to re-look at that and jig it.
So do you want to make a motion to send those back then and bring them back?
Sure.
The motion to bring the 2024 council expense claim final total and the 2024 council professional development expense total back to the January 28th council meeting?
Yep, that's what I would like.
Okay. And you can read that for us, Jocelyn, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Engel to bring back the 2024 council expense claim final total and 2024 council professional development expense total to the January 28th regular council meeting.
Okay, any comments? Councillor Windsor? Councillor Bazook? Councillor Moore? And I don't, so I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks for that. And we have item 10, correspondence from the Mountain View Art Society. And I would like to just read this first, and then we can make a motion, because I think we should be sending a letter on behalf of council, because I think we already read this. It is on the Mountain View Art Society. It's with sadness that we have received the letter from the Mountain View Art Society advising council of their pending dissolution. For 13 years, the successes of the Art Society are many, promoting and encouraging artistic opportunities and events for the enrichment of the general public. And that they did. Their signature events have invited thousands of residents and visitors to our beautiful community. The annual Arts Festival that has brought not only an array of displays and activities into our town in September of each year, but dancers, musicians, storytellers, Indigenous culture, and so much more. And the Art Society also brought beautiful murals into our community. Days of Yore introduced us to bygone eras and their cultural traditions, battle experiences, lifestyles, and activities, as well as artisans that specialized in creating heritage and traditional crafts. The record attendances at this annual event was truly amazing and applauded. And their flyover last year by the RCAF was pretty special on the 150th anniversary of that. The amazing art shows, A Brush with Art, Artists at Work, National Film Day. I could go on. There is more in their letter, that everyone can read, all they did, and so very many that they supported. This is indeed a difficult day for our community and region, as the Mount View Art Society expressed their being grateful for all they do, all they could do and have done for the community. We want to express how grateful we are to have experienced all that they have done, and the value, dedication, commitment, and creativity and adventure of the Mount View Art Society. We are truly saddened to hear of your dissolution as a society. And it's the end of the era of Mount View Art Society, and I think the motion should be to send a letter, and then we'll go around with comments, of course. Yeah.
I think I'm going to do this right. I recommend that council accept correspondence provided as information, and that the mayor send a letter to the Art Society thanking them for their contributions.
To the Mount View Art Society?
Martin Mount View Art Society.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Do you have any comments, Deputy Mayor?
No, it's always sad to see something like that dissolve. The events have been great for the town. It's created a lot of awareness for Didsbury, and I'm sad to see the end of it.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think we'll just echo the same sentiments as the Deputy Mayor did and yourself.
Councillor Basak?
You know, we don't like to see any society or group dissolve, especially when it's contributed a lot to our community, and it's just one of those things. I guess that it's pretty well a volunteer organization, and when the complement of volunteers dwindle, it's hard to keep that society going. So I guess that's how these meet their demise, is through lack of interest from volunteers and generally the public, I guess. So it's too bad.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
I agree with all the comments.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept his information and to send a letter. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. So we have a question period, and we always make our guests sit through our long meetings before you can come up and speak. So if you'd like to speak, we appreciate you being here, and I understand there's conversation about pickleball courts, but I'm not going to put you on the spot and make you talk. But I think you were connected with the right people, and thanks for being here. So with that, we have, what happened to our council? Oh, the meeting highlights are at the council. I'm just going to get them right now. So we're supposed to do the highlights with our reports. I don't know why I forget that. Do you have a council highlight?
Yeah, the ice plant condenser.
Automatic.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The Valorosa Link design.
Councillor Baswick?
All of the above.
Oh, can't. Not allowed.
Okay. Then we'll talk about the Valorosa Link would be an important one. If that hasn't been mentioned, I don't think it has.
It has, but you second the motion on that. Not the motion. That's okay. Yeah, thanks. That's okay. There's not very many tonight that we can. And I'm always appreciative of our department's the economic development update and the planning and development update. So I appreciate, and they're thorough and extensive, and I really like to know that I'm getting new neighbors. So that's good news. Councillor Moore, do you have any highlights?
Continued improvement to our land use bylaw.
No, it hasn't been yet, because there's no public hearing yet, but potential improvements. Okay,
the bylaw would be a continued improvement to our land use bylaw.
okay, so those are our highlights, and I think we get them out soon, in the next few days, and for now, I will have a motion to go to closed meeting at 7:30 PM. Councillor Windsor? Call the vote, all in favor? That is carried. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we have closed meeting items to make motions on, and 12.1 Memorial Complex Condenser Unit Contract Update. Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I am going to move that council update Resolution 002-25 to the contract with Sunbelt Rentals. Do you want me to go more?
Well, I think it's supposed to say in place of.
In place of Train Technologies with regard to the temporary chiller unit.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have item 12.2, Mount View Regional Engagement. Councillor Engel. Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry.
I move that council have all questions into the executive assistant, I believe it was, by January 23rd.
Yes. Call the vote. All in favor?
In
favor.
That's carried.
Did you need to know what the questions were regarding?
No, I can hear.
No. Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, let's fill in what those are. The questions for the joint council,
For the joint
joint
council.
all-council meeting.
For all council, yeah.
And then item 12.3, the CAO cultural assessment information as information.
I move that the council's cultural assessment information be accepted as information.
No, that the CAO's information.
Oh, didn't I say that?
I think
Sorry.
you said council.
You said council. You're as tired as we are.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
In favor.
That's carried. Councillor Windsor.
I move that council direct the mayor to obtain information on cultural assessments and the governance role to be presented at the January 23rd, 2025 council planning meeting.
I think we jumped one.
No?
12.4.
No, this is part of the cultural assessment.
Oh, sorry.
Say that again.
Sorry, Councillor.
Move that council direct the mayor to obtain information on cultural assessments and the governance role to be presented at the January 23rd, 2025 council planning meeting.
Okay, I'll call the vote on.
Questions?
Oh, okay. Thought we had them all, but go ahead.
I'm going to vote in favor of this, and it's not for any other reason than I just need to understand it.
Okay, I'll call the vote.
We will too. We're not voting on doing that.
Call the vote. All in favor?
Not in favor.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, thank you. We have 12.4, the 2023 and 2024 CAO performance appraisal to accept the process.
I move that council accept the 2023-2024 performance appraisals as information.
Okay. We'll call the vote. All in favor?
In favor.
That's carried. And 12.5, we have Councillor Baswick, the council planning meeting on January 23rd at 6 p.m. at the town office. Right? Oh, you're nodding that you're making that motion? Okay.
That is the motion.
Well, you were scrolling on your phone, so I didn't know what was going on.
did, so I said correct.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
I'll go with that.
In favor.
That's carried. And Councillor Windsor to accept the governance update as information.
Move that the council accept the governance update as information.
I'll call the vote. All in favor?
In favor.
That's carried. And we have a motion to adjourn at 9:40 p.m. I believe we captured all those motions.
Councillor Baswick.
Mr. Beswick? All in favor? We don't have to vote on that, we should change that. All right, good night, everybody.